Hi, Assalamualaikum, everyone. Today, my group and I will be presenting our collaborative translation project based on the English text titled Her Attack. In this presentation, we will be sharing our translated version in Malay and briefly discussing the translation process, focusing on accuracy, tone, and cultural appropriateness. Our translation focuses on two main sections, diagnosis and tests, both of which describe how her attacks are identified and examined through various medical procedures. To begin, I'll be presenting the diagnosis section. In translating the section from English to Malay, I focus on maintaining both accuracy and clarity while ensuring the text sounded natural in Malay. I began by carefully identifying the main ideas and medical terms in each paragraph, then rendered them using equivalent terms commonly used in in Malay medical context. For example, I use phrases such as pemeriksaan kesihatan berkala dan pemeriksaan kesihatan berkala and faktor risiko to preserve the professional tone of the source text. I also adapted sentence structures to fit Malay grammatical flow since English sentences tend to be longer and more complex. By slightly reorganizing them, the translation becomes smoother and easier to understand for Malay readers. Throughout this translation, I ensured that the tone remained formal, informative, and respectful, consistent with health communication norms in Malay. Overall, my translation approach aimed to balance linguistic accuracy, cultural appropriateness, and readability, while retaining the original meaning of the English text. So I'll pass to the next presenter.
Hi everyone, thank you Elik. I'm going to explain how I translated this text from English to Malay. First, made sure to keep the original meaning of each sentence intact. I didn't want to lose any important information. Next, for technical terms like ECG or MRI, I mostly kept them in English, but sometimes added a short explanation in Malay so it would be clear. I also adjusted the sentence structure a bit so it sounds natural in Malay. For example, some sentences needed to be reordered to flow better. Finally, I focus on clarity and readability. I use simple Malay words wherever possible, avoiding words for words translation that might confuse the reader. So, overall, the translation is accurate, professional, and easy to understand. So, I'm gonna pass it to Putri for the next process.
Thank you, Philadelphia. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, as for my part, I will be discussing how I translated the heart diagnostic test into Malay language, covering the echocardiogram, the catheterization, coronary, and CT and MRI. So basically, I took the original English text and converted it into clear Malay, keeping all the important information intact. I made sure each task explanation was easy to understand and the steps of the procedures were clearly described. For example, in echocardiogram, I wrote gelombang bunyi ultrasound digunakan untuk menghasilkan imej jantung yang sedang bergerak to explain what the test does and how it works. In catheterization coronary, I translated the step-by-step process clearly, which is the tube panjang dan nipis catheter dimasukkan ke dalam arteri, biasanya di kaki dan diarahkan ke jantung. For CT and MRI, I describe how the scans are done and what technology they use, like imbasan CT jantung menggunakan sinar X menggunakan sinar X, MRI jantung menggunakan medan magnet. dan gelombang radio untuk menghasilkan imej jantung. Overall, I tried to make sure the translation kept the original meaning and made sense in Malay while keeping it organized and easy to follow. That was my main goal, to make sure the information is accurate and understandable in Malay. And I will pass to the reviewers.
Hello everyone, my name is Shahira Jamla. So today I'm going to review for the source text heart attack. So the translation is accurate and it maintains the intended meaning of the source text. The use of penyedia penjagaan kesihatan and pemeriksaan kesihatan berkala is appropriate enough and proportionally phrased. The tone is formal and clear, fitting for a medical context. However, replacing anda with pesakit or seseorang could make the tone more natural and aligned with standard medical writing. Overall, it is a fluent and precise translation with minimal adjustment needed. Next, for diagnosis in paragraph 2, for my comment, the translation clearly conveys the urgency and meaning of the original text. Phrases such as situasi kecemasan and langkah-langkah kecemasan effectively reflect the emergency context while maintaining a professional tone. The grammar and sentence structure are accurate and easy to follow. However, substituting anda and pesakit could enhance neutrality and align better with medical writing conventions. Overall, translation is fluent, accurate, and contextually appropriate. Last but not least, for diagnosis in paragraph 3, the translation accurately conveys the key medical information from the source text and maintains a clear formal tone. Terms like pemeriksaan tekanan darah, denyutan nadi dan suhu badan are correctly used and contextually appropriate. The sentence structure is smooth and natural in Malay. Overall, this paragraph demonstrates strong accuracy and clarity with no major grammatical and vocabulary issues identified. Next, I am going to pass this to second review.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Okay, so I am the second reviewer. My name is Mia Khadija, and I'm going to review the source, the test part. Okay, so the first one is electrocardiogram. Um, so in the grammatical aspect, the translation is correct, but to improve the sentence flow, changing a few words like ialah to merupakan makes the translation sound more natural and casual in Bahasa Melayu. Also, the translator is advised to use seseorang instead of anda to make for a more neutral tone, which suits medical writing. And then moving on to blood tests. My comment on this translation is that for a smoother flow and clearer sentence structure, the translator is advised to reorder the first sentence. So it will sound like selepas berlakunya kerosakan jantung, protein tertentu daripada jantung akan perlahan-lahan bocor ke dalam darah. And then changing daripada is more accurate when referring to a source. So lastly, to make this translation to sound more natural, the translator is advised to add yang dikenali sebagai in the last sentence. So it will sound like ujian darah dilakukan untuk mengesan protein ini yang dikenali sebagai penanda jantung. And then moving on to chest x-ray, my comment on this translation is just that the translator is advised to change the order of the word dan and serta to make it sound more natural in Bahasa Melayu and make the chest x-ray
the conjunctions less repetitive. So the sentence would look like X-ray dada menunjukkan keadaan serta saiz jantung dan paru-paru. So moving on to the next reviewer.
Hi, I'm the last reviewer for parts 4 to 6 of the heart attack diagnosis translation. After reading through the Malay version, I can say that overall the translator did a really good job maintaining both accuracy of meaning and formal tone that suits a medical context. The translation sounds natural, the technical terms are correct, and it flows quite smoothly from one part to another. But of course, I found a few small details we could refine to make it sound even better. So let's start with part 4, which is about echocardiogram. I think this part is very well done. The meaning from the original English text is preserved perfectly, and the word choice sound professional. The translate the translator used the correct medical terms echocardiogram, which is accurate and appropriate. If I had to suggest one small change, I'll say maybe simplify yang sedang bergerak to yang bergerak. It's smoother and still accurate. But overall, this section is clear, accurate, and flows naturally. Next part 5, talks about coronary saturation. The Malay version you can see in the slide. Okay, and I really like how this one was translated. It explains the process in simple, clear Malay while keeping the scientific accuracy. The terms catheter is correctly used and adding Cahaya Pewarna has give it a more technical and formal tones. The sentence structure is also well balanced and it's long enough to sound descriptive but not too complicated. So overall, this part reads very well. I think it's one of the strongest section in this translation. Moving to the last part, the one that explains cardiac CT and MRI scans. I think this part is really well translated too. It sounds complete and easy to follow. The use of tahap keparahan is perfect. It sounds proper, term used in Malaysian health context, much better than tahap keterukan. If I were to tweak anything, maybe change anda to pesakit to make it sound more formal and objective, since this is a medical explanation. So it would be pesakit biasanya akan berbaring di atas meja. It's just a minor change, but it makes the text sound more professional. Overall, the translation for part 4 to 6 is accurate, consistent, and very well written. The translator managed to balance the technical accuracy and readability, which is not easy when dealing with medical terminology. So that's my review for translation of part 4 to 6.
Alright, guys. So everyone's ready. So today we are going to do our collaborative error hunt for the translated text on the heart attack diagnosis. So we are going to go through the translation together, check for any mistakes or awkward parts, and see how we can prove it together. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Yep, I've got my notes. I read the whole thing last night and there's a lot to say.
Well, same here. I feel like the translation is really good overall, but maybe we can make it sound smoother in Malay.
Exactly, it's formal, but some sentences feel like they came straight from English. We can make them sound more natural.
Okay, let's get started before we end up chatting too long. Mia, you go first.
Okay. All right. So
First of all, I focus on the vocabulary appropriateness and cultural relevance. So, overall, the translation uses pretty much accurate medical terms like echocardiogram, catheterisasi coronari, and serangan jantung. And I think those are all correct in Malay medical usage. But I can't help but notice that on one phrase, penyedia penjagaan kesihatan, it sounds a bit too formal. Don't you guys think? It's like something straight out of textbook. Because in Malaysia, most people say petugas kesihatan or pegawai perubatan because it sounds more natural and it's still formal enough.
Yeah, I do agree on that part as well. Penyedia penjagaan kesihatan sounds like something from a literal translations. Petugas kesihatan feels right for our context.
Yeah, exactly. And for cultural relevance, I think that the translation does so well because it doesn't use too many foreign expressions, and the explanation of the text section are clear enough for Malaysian readers. So I just think that maybe for things like angiogram, maybe we could give a short explanation in brackets like ujian untuk melihat arteri jantung. Just so that the readers who don't have medical background would understand this better.
That's a good idea. It makes it easier to read without losing the professional tone.
Yes, thank you. Okay, then next, Vila, what did you find?
So, for the grammar accuracy, the translation is good. No serious grammatical mistake, but a few sentences sound repetitive. For example, jika anda mengalami atau telah mengalami serangan jantung, it repeats mengalami twice, right? It could be smoother as jika anda sedang atau pernah mengalami serangan jantung.
Yeah, that actually sounds more natural, Fila.
Exactly. And then for sentence structure, I think some sentences are too long. Like ujian juga dilakukan untuk melihat bagaimana jantung berfungsi dan untuk menilai kesihatan jantung secara keseluruhannya. That's mouthful. I break it into two. Ujian turut dijalankan bagi menilai fungsi jantung. Ia juga membantu menentukan tahap kesihatan jantung secara keseluruhannya.
Oh, that's a great idea. That definitely does flow way better.
Well, yeah, I do agree as well. Sometimes shorter sentences help people process medical info faster. You know what they say, less is more.
Yes, that is right, Putri. So now it is your turn.
Okay, thanks, Mia. So, as for my part, I will be discussing the areas of tone and style consistency, as well as the cultural references in our Malay translation of the heart attack test. Focusing on the echocardiogram, coronary catheterization, and CT or MRI. Okay, so first, let's talk about the tone and style consistency. The original English text uses a formal, informative, and medical tone. It's written in a neutral way to explain how each test is performed and what it shows. In my translation, I made sure to keep the same tone throughout the three sessions. For example, in a echocardiogram, the sentence gelombang bunyi ultrasound digunakan untuk menghasilkan imej jantung yang sedang bergerak. It is very clear, factual, and professional. It doesn't include casual or emotional words, so it keeps the tone serious and informative. As for the next part, which is the coronary catheterization, tube panjang dan nipis catheter dimasukkan ke dalam arteri, biasanya di kaki dan diarahkan ke jantung. It is also maintains this formal step-by-step style, and the style remains consistent across different procedures. As for the last part, the CT and MRI, the sentences like imbasan CT jantung menggunakan sinar X. Sementara itu, MRI jantung menggunakan medan magnet dan gelombang radio untuk menghasilkan imej jantung. These sentences are short, precise, and neutral. This helps the information remain professional and easy to follow. So overall, the tone and style in my translation are consistent, professional, informative, and neutral, just like the original text.
Yeah, and it's clear and easy to follow and also not too wordy or confusing.
Well, exactly. That's what I aim for. And then, as for the cultural references, the text is also suitable for Malaysian readers. It avoids any overly Western expression that might confuse local readers. Technical terms like echocardiogram, catheterisasi coronary, and pengimejan resonance magnetic are standard in Malaysia, so they're understandable in medical or educational contexts. Also, we avoided using anda too often. Instead, the text uses neutral phrasing like pesakit, which is more formal and culturally appropriate in local medical writing.
So it's about making it professional but still relatable for Malaysian readers, right?
Yes, exactly. Keep it formal and accurate, but make sure the reader can understand it. That's the balance between tone consistency and cultural relevance.
All right. Thank you so much for your insights, Putri. So let's move on to the next section, context and terminology. Ali, I believe this was your assigned focus area. So please go ahead and share your analysis with all of us.
All right, thank you, Mia. For this part, I concentrated on both contextual and subject matter awareness as well as terminology accuracy. Overall, I believe that the translator demonstrated a strong understanding of the medical content presented in the source context. The translation clearly reflects the purpose and function of each diagnostic test mentioned. For instance, the description of the electrocardiogram ECG accurately explains that it records the electrical signals passing through the heart. However, when it comes to the terminology, there are several expressions that could be refined to enhance precision and professional tone. One example is the phrase cecair pewarna, which was used to describe the dye injected during the catheterisasi coronary and which is angiogram procedure. While it is not incorrect, I would suggest replacing it with agent pewarna khas, as it sounds more technical and aligns with how medical professional or health publication typically describe contrast agents. Additionally, I noticed the use of the term tahap keterukan in the sentence that explain how the CT and MRI scans can show the severity of the condition. Although keterukan is a direct and grammatically correct translation of severity, it can sound slightly rigid and less natural in formal English context. In contrast, tahap keparahan is more commonly used in Malaysian medical reports, new articles, and Ministry of Health announcement. Therefore, replacing tahap keterukan with tahap keparahan would make it the text sound more natural, familiar, and professionally consistent with the public health communication standards.
I completely agree with you, Alec. The term keparahan definitely sounds more idiomatic in Malay medical usage. Keturukan is grammatically fine, but it feels like a literal translation from English rather than an expression we would commonly hear in local contexts.
Yes, and that's a great observation. These subtle differences really influence how natural and professional a translation sounds. Choosing agent berwarna khas and tahap keparahan shows that we are not only translating words but also considering the tone, usage, and expectation of the intended audience.
That is excellent points, everyone. I appreciate how specific the feedback was for this section. So now let's proceed to the final part, which is meaning and overall tone. So this section was handled by Shaira. So please go ahead and share your analysis with us.
Thank you, Mia. For my part, I focuses on two main areas, meaning accuracy and tone, and style consistency. In terms of meaning, I believe the translation is very faithful to the original English text. The translator successfully retained all essential information, including the sequence of diagnostic procedures, the function of each test, and the medical reasoning behind them. Every explanation, from the electrocardiogram (ECG) to the tomography berkomputer (CT) and pengimajan resonance magnetic (MRI), is conveyed clearly and aligns well with the source text. However, while the meaning is accurate, I actually noticed that some sentences could be made more fluent and natural in Malay. For example, in the section describing the MRI procedure, the sentence anda biasanya akan berbaring di atas meja yang akan masuk ke dalam mesin berbentuk tiup panjang is grammatically correct but sounds a little rigid and literal. A smoother version would be biasanya pesakit akan diminta berbaring di atas meja yang perlahan-lahan bergerak masuk ke dalam mesin berbentuk tiup panjang. This revision remains the original meaning but improves the sentence flow while adopting a more formal and patient-friendly tone, which is better suited to medical and health communication contexts.
I completely agree, Shahira. The revised version definitely sounds more natural and reader friendly. It feels less mechanical and more like something you would read in an official medical pamphlet or health information brochure.
Well, yes, I agree with you, Shaira. I like how your revision introduces a sense of calmness and professionalism. The addition of perlahan-lahan bergerak masuk makes it sound gentle and reassuring, which is important for medical writing that aims to inform without intimidating the reader.
That's a very good point. I also think that it's crucial that the tone throughout the translation remains respectful and neutral. The use of polite and inclusive language reflects both cultural sensitivity and professional communication ethics, especially when the audience may include patients or the general public.
Okay, thank you everyone. That was actually my intention to make sure the text maintains accuracy while sounding human and empathetic. As for the overall tone and style, I appreciate that the translation consistently maintains a formal yet accessible tone. The structure and terminology are suitable for a general audience interested in health information while still meeting professional standards. However, I would like to suggest breaking up a few of the longer paragraph into shorter sections. This will not only improve readability but also make it more easier for readers to process the information step by step, especially since medical content can be quite dense.
Yes, that is an excellent suggestion, Shaira. Breaking up the paragraphs would indeed make the text less overwhelming and more approachable, I would say, without altering the meaning of the tone.
Overall, I think this part highlights how important it is to go beyond literal accuracy, ensuring the tone, flow, and reader engagement are appropriate for the context truly distinguishes a good translation from a great one.
Yeah, absolutely. To summarize, the translation demonstrates a strong balance between accuracy and readability. The suggested refinements, such as replacing Cicai Pewarna with Ejen Pewarna Khas, using tahap keparahan instead of tahap keterukan, and rephrasing certain sentences for a smoother flow, and restructuring long paragraphs all contribute to improving the final version of this translation. So, these collective insights not only enhance the linguistic precision, but also to elevate the overall professionalism and cultural suitability of the translated text.
Mm, correct.
Okay, now that we have completed the review, let's reflect on the cultural differences that we found between the English source and our Malay translation, and how language, culture, and teamwork influence the final product.
Well, some differences occur because of language structure. English sentences are often long and detailed, while Malay needs clearer and shorter sentences to maintain flow. For example, we divided long English explanations into smaller sentences to make the text easier to read.
Tone was another difference. The English text sounded more clinical, so we adjusted the Malay version to be polite and reader friendly, like changing Anda akan berbaring to pesakit akan diminta berbaring. This suits Malaysian health communication better because it sounds more respectful and professional.
And we also had to adapt certain terms for accuracy and naturalness. For example, we use agent pewarna khas instead of cecai pewarna and tahap keparahan instead of tahap keterukan. These terms are more appropriate in medical context used in Malaysia.
Cultural and idiomatic factors also influence our choices. In English, direct instructions like you will lie down are common, but in Malay, it's better to use neutral and formal terms to maintain politeness. We also use shorter points for each test to match how local health information is usually presented.
Um, yes, finally, teamwork really improved our translation, I would say, because everyone contributed different strengths from terminology checks to tone and influency. Finally, teamwork really improved our translation because everyone contributed different strengths from terminology checks to tone and fluency. By discussing and justifying our changes together, we have managed to produce a translation that is not only accurate but also culturally and linguistically appropriate.
I actually like this translation overall. It feels well researched. We are just polishing it to make it more Malaysian and natural.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think this one is the best one compared to the other translation discussion that we have. Uh, work on. This feels like editing a professional article by keeping it readable for normal people.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
We sounds like professionals already, guys.
We do, actually. And all right, so let's all wrap this up because overall, we have identified some minor issues and improved the translation tone, accuracy, and cultural fit. So basically, that's all of it. That is all for our collaborative error hunt. So great job, everyone.
Yay.
Yay!